everyone, welcome to Botany Insider, and in this lecture we would be understanding about the plant hormone auxin in complete detail. We would be understanding about the discovery, the features, synthesis pathways, transportation, signaling and the functioning of auxin in complete detail. So let us first of all understand about the discovery experiment that took place for the auxin functioning and its discovery. So there were many experiments done by various scientists, but the most important experiment to focus upon is by the scientist Wendt, and the isolation, discovery and the naming credit for the hormone auxin goes to the scientist Wendt. And he made a test, or he created a test that is popularly known as the Avena curvature test, in which the plant that was used for the discovery was Avena sativa. It is a type of a grass of the oats plant. So let's just quickly discuss the experiment. So the experiment was that the Avena grass was taken and the subsequent cases were depicted in order to find and in order to finally conclude that there was a hormone which was given the name of auxin. So we had two cases. The experiment was conducted by having two cases in hand. In the first case, what was done was, these were the steps followed. That was, first of all, the coleoptile of the Avena, that is the tip of the Avena, was decapsulated, that is, it was removed off. So the first step was that the coleoptile of Avena was decapsulated, and then this tip was placed on the agar block. And after some time, the coleoptile showed the bending towards the light. And to prove this experiment, or to prove the contradiction, the second case that was framed was that the decapsulated coleoptile was exposed to light and there was no bending seen as a result. So this concluded that there is some hormone or some chemical present in the coleoptile or on the tip of the Avena grass that is letting the plant or letting the branch of that plant bend towards the light source. So we can see in the figure, these are the steps that were followed. That is, first the tips of the Avena coleoptile was cut off, they were placed on the agar. Then the auxin, that would be the hormone that actually helped in the bending, diffused into the agar. And when this agar was again placed on the coleoptile in order to check the results, it showed some bending. And how we can prove this? Because there occurred diffusion of that chemical which was later named as auxin by the scientist who performed this experiment. It diffused into the agar plate, and finally the properties, the chemical properties that this hormone or that this chemical was holding was diffused into the agar. So the agar did the same work as the tip was performing initially. So there were two main conclusions after this experiment. That is, the first one is that the chemical that is present at the tip, which is responsible for the response to the light, that is the hormone was present in the tip of the Avena plant, which helped in the bending or the curvature of the light. And second, the tip that was placed on the agar block had the chemical. Why it had? Because it has diffused to that agar plate because of the phenomena of the diffusion. So these were the two main conclusions, and by the help of the experiment and the followed conclusions, it was framed, or it was finally concluded that there was a hormone which was named as auxin, which is present at the tip and is mostly important for the bending or the curvature of the stem of the grass. So let's understand about the most important features of the plant hormone auxin. So the features are, the first one is that the growth promoting chemical at the tip of a plant. So it is a type of a growth hormone which is present at the tip, and it promotes cell elongation. It is produced in the stem, buds and the root tips. It is present both naturally and can also be synthesized artificially. It is a derivative of the indole compound. It is very important to remember from which it is derived, because it is also known as indole acetic acid, and in our exam not auxin but this word or this alternative synonym is used for auxin, that is indole acetic acid. The main site of synthesis of the auxin is the apical meristem. And what is apical meristem? We would understand this by the help of a diagram in the subsequent slides. And finally, it promotes stem elongation. Why it helps in stem elongation? Because it is helping in cell elongation, and as it is helping in cell elongation, so as a result of the elongated cell, the final result will be that the stem would increase or the stem would elongate in its length. Then we have that auxin maintains apical dominance. What is apical dominance? It is very, very important because many questions have been framed from this area. The last point is that auxin moves to the darker side of the plant, produces curving of the plant, which is known as phototrophin. What do we mean by phototrophin? Just split the terms. Photo means light and trophin means a response. So auxin is a hormone that moves towards the darker side of the plant and finally leads to the curving of the plant as a response of the light. As you can see in the figure that there is auxin present at the apical part. So initially the plant was receiving sunlight from the tip. All the auxin was present at the equalized distance on the tip of the plant, but as the sun moved towards the right, the auxin starts to diffuse towards the darker side or away from the light portion, and finally as a result of movement, auxin helped in the cell elongation of the darker side, and there occurred a curvature or there occurred a curving of the stem of the plant. So now let us understand about the apical dominance, which is one of the very important phenomena from the exam point of view and also for the understanding of this topic. So apical dominance in simple word means that as we have just studied that auxin is mainly produced at the tip of the plant. So auxin causes apical dominance, that is if auxin is present in the apex or it is present at the tip of the plant, it would not allow the lateral buds to grow and there occurs only the elongation of the stem in one direction. But if we cut or if we remove the tip, if we remove the apex of the plant, it leads to the lateral growth of the buds or it leads to the lateral stem formation, and finally the plant appears more bushier and there occurs more lateral growth as compared to the apical growth, or the increase in the length is less as compared to the increase in the width of the plant. So this is the case of apical dominance. So we can say that apical dominance simply means that when the tip of the plant is dominating over the lateral buds, which is not allowing the lateral buds to grow, and hence there occurs only the increase in the length and not the width of the plant. But as we remove or as we prune the tip or as we prune the apical meristem of the plant, there occurs the removal of the auxin that is present at the tip, and finally there occurs the lateral buds to grow or the lateral buds to develop, and finally the plant appears more bushier. As you can see that there is increase in the width of the plant as compared to the length of the plant. So this is all about apical dominance. So we have the synthesis location of the auxin as the shoot apical meristem and the root apical meristem. Let us understand about that what is apical meristem. So apex means the tip. Apex, A-P-E-X, in simple word means the tip. So if we are talking about shoot apical meristem, it is the tip of the shoot, and if we are talking about the root apical meristem, we are talking about the root tips where the auxin would be produced. So we have mainly three types of meristem. The first one is the apical meristem, as you can see in the figure, which is present on both the shoot and the root. Then we have the lateral meristem, which helps to increase the width of the plant, and third one is the intercalary meristem, which is not shown in this figure, but it is present between the two successive nodes, which helps to increase the length of the stem. So there is present the intercalary meristem, but it is not of our importance, it is just to have an additional information. So let's understand about the pathways. So we have mainly two pathways by which the auxin is produced or the auxin is synthesized in the plants. That is, one is the tryptophan dependent and the second one is the tryptophan independent. Why tryptophan? Because as we have already discussed in the previous lecture in the introduction of plant hormones, that the precursor for the auxin is the tryptophan. So if you have not watched the previous video, please do check out the previous video as well. So in case of tryptophan dependent, we have four alternative pathways by which the auxin is produced. That is IPA pathway, tryptamine pathway, IAN and IAM pathway. We'll understand about all of them in detail in the next slide. And then we have the tryptophan independent pathway, which is not of much importance. We only need to focus upon the tryptophan dependent pathway. So these are the four pathways by which the auxin is produced in the plant. In case of the tryptophan dependent, we have pathway 1, 2, 3 and 4. So let's understand about each one of them in detail. Pathway 1 and pathway 2 are the most common pathways that are followed. In the first case, we have the tryptophan getting converted into IPA, that is indole 3-pyruvate, and this happens by the help of the deamination reaction, and the enzyme that is used is tryptophan deaminase or tryptophan transaminase. Make sure you remember the enzyme and the process as well. Then we have IPA getting converted into indole 3-acetaldehyde by the process of decarboxylation, and the enzyme that is used is decarboxylase. Finally, this indole 3-acetaldehyde gets converted into indole 3-acetic acid by the help of dehydrogenation, and the enzyme that is used is dehydrogenase. Let's understand about the second pathway. So we have initially the same precursor, that is the tryptophan, getting converted into tryptamine by the help of the process of the decarboxylation, and then the same process gets converted into the previous one, that is tryptamine gets converted into indole 3-acetaldehyde by the process of deamination, and finally the indole 3-acetaldehyde gets converted into indole 3-acetic acid, the final auxin molecule. Make sure you remember that in the first pathway we have deamination and then decarboxylation, but in the second case we have first decarboxylation and then deamination. So it is a bit confusing, but make sure you remember this. The third pathway is the one in which we have the tryptophan getting converted into IAN, that is indole 3-acetonitrile, and then IAN gets converted into the IAA, that is indole 3-acetaldehyde, by the enzyme which is known as nitrilase. The last pathway is in which the tryptophan gets converted into IAM, that is indole 3-acetamide, and then acetamide gets converted into indole 3-acetic acid. And the last point to remember is that tryptophan when gets converted into IAM, that is indole 3-acetamide, there occurs the usage of the enzyme that is monooxygenase. So these are the four pathways which are very important and also very easy if we remember or if we go through them nicely once or twice. So make sure you remember them. So let's move forward and understand about the transportation of the auxin. So till now we have understood that auxin is produced, but how does this transportation of auxin takes place? We'll understand it in this slide. So the transportation occurs from the shoot apex to downward. Why? Because as we have just studied that the auxin is produced at the apex or at the tip of the shoots. So the transportation occurs from the shoot apex to the downward area, and this transportation occurs in a basipetal manner. It is a polar transport. Why? We'll understand it in the next slide. It is a regulated transport, active process, that is ATP is used in this process. The transportation occur in cell to cell manner, that is the transportation occurs from one cell to the next cell, and this relay race continues. Then there occurs a polarity or a directionality. Why? Because it is a type of a polar transport, so there must be a directionality, and that direction is from the shoot tip towards the down area. The last point is that it is unidirectional, that is there does not occur bidirectional transport. The unidirectional transport occurs in case of auxin, because auxin is synthesized only in one area. We do not find auxin to be synthesized in any other area, so there occurs polarity regulated active process in the case of transport of auxin. So we have mainly two processes by which the transportation occur, that is the apoplast and the symplast. So apoplast is the case in which we have the cell walls involved of the adjacent cells helping the auxin to get transported from one cell to the next cell. Apoplast is the case in which the transportation occurs in between the cells and not from the cytoplasm. But in the symplast, it is the opposite case, that involves the movement via the plasmodesmata. And what is plasmodesmata? So in simple words, it is a type of interconnection, or it is a type of junction between the adjacent two cells that help in the transportation via the cytoplasm. As you can see in the figure, that we have the auxin getting transported via the plasmodesmata, that is via the cytoplasm. And what is cytoplasm? As we all know that there is a cell and there are three main components, that is the cell membrane, the cytoplasm and the nucleus. So in symplast we have the transportation via the cytoplasm, and in apoplast we have the transportation via the cell membrane, which occurs not in between but via the adjacent cell walls. Let's move forward and understand about the transporters. So we have understood that how auxin is produced, we have understood how it is transported. Now we'll understand by the help of what it is transported. So it is transported by the help of mainly two main transporters, that is AUX1 and the PIN1. So AUX1 is a transporter that is located randomly on the plasma membrane. It helps in the influx, that is the entry of auxin into the plant cell, and then it is present at the apical end. That is, consider this is a cell, AUX1 would be present at the apical part, and the second one, that is the PIN1, it is present at the basal part. So the PIN1 is present at the basal part of the plant cell. It helps in the efflux, and it is also a type of a transporter. So as you can see, we have the IAA, that is indole 3-acetic acid, getting influx or getting the entry into the cell by the help of AUX1, and from the cell in the basal area we have the PIN1 transporter, which helps in the efflux of the auxin from the cell. So this is the complete way in which the transportation occurs. So we have IAA, that is indole 3-acetic acid, in the deprotonated form in the initial stage. So we have IAA minus plus H plus, that is the protons, which gets converted into IAAH, that is the protonated form of auxin. So this is a bidirectional step, that is the deprotonated form and the protonated form gets converted reversibly into each other by the change in the pH, and also depending upon which transport method it is using, that is whether it is using symplast or the apoplast manner. So next point is that IAAH, that is the protonated form of the auxin, is lipophilic in nature, that is it could enter the plasma membrane and the cytoplasm, because lipophilic means that it is lipid loving, and we know that plasma membrane is made of lipid, so it can easily enter into the plasma membrane, and from the plasma membrane gets transported to the cytoplasm. As you can see in the figure, we have two cells. We'll understand the transport by the help of these two cells. So we have AUX1 at the apex and the PIN1 at the base. So apoplast is the method by which the movement takes place via the cell membrane, and symplast is the process by which the transport takes place via the plasmodesmata. So as you can see that initially IAA minus, that is the deprotonated form, and the H plus gets the entry into the cell by the help of OX1, and the H plus gets out of the cell again by the help of some other pump that is present on the cell, which makes the pH of the cell membrane outside as 5.6, and because it is 5.6, it converts the auxin into the protonated form. So we have the protonated form getting the entry into the plant cell via the symport, that is via the symport, and this process continues. And we also have to remember that protonated form of auxin gets converted or gets broken down into IAA minus and H plus at the neutral pH, and this H plus again gets out, again it makes the protonated form of the auxin, and this process continues. And in this manner the complete relay race or the complete cell to cell manner of the auxin transport takes place from the one cell to the next cell. All you need to remember is that where is OX1 present, where is PIN1 present, what are their functions, and this reaction, which is very simple. We just need to remember the deprotonated, its pH, and the protonated form and its pH. Just make sure you remember these important points and you're good to go for this topic. So this topic is very important and also very easy if you have a good conceptual knowledge of the same. So let's move forward and understand about the functions of auxin. So the main functions of auxin are that it helps in cell elongation, cell differentiation, rooting, apical dominance, we have just studied about it, parthenocarpy, and also about the tropical response. And the tropical response is mainly the curving or the bending of the coleoptile towards the light area or towards the sunlight direction. So we have mainly two main types of auxin, that is the natural ones and the synthetic ones. Make sure you remember their name because it is easy, and also sometimes questions have been asked from this area as well. So we have 4 natural auxin, and also there are some synthetic auxins also present that have been produced or that have been synthesized artificially in the lab. So let's understand about the last point, that is the auxin signaling pathway. So we have the auxin which is involved in the plant growth and development, and the complete process takes place by the help of these 4 partners. That is, the auxin binds to TIR1, that is the transport inhibitor response 1. The inhibitor of this complete mechanism is the OXIAA protein. Then we have the ligand or the one that actually binds, which is the auxin, and we have the transcription activator, that is ARF, which is the auxin response factor. So let's understand about the signal. So initially we have ARF, that is the auxin response factor, bound to the OXIAA, which is the inhibitor of this complete signaling. So we have initially the ARF heterodimer, but when the auxin, that is IAA or the indole 3-acetic acid, comes as a ligand and it binds to this complete heterodimer, there occurs the activation of the ubiquitin ligase pathway, and there occurs the proteination or there occurs the ubiquitination of the OXIAA, which is the inhibitor, by the help of tagging of this protein or this complex by a ubiquitin tag. And finally this ubiquitin tag helps the plant machinery to understand that this is the protein which needs to be degraded. So this degradation occurs by the help of 26S proteasomal degradation pathway, and finally the degradation occurs. So after the ARF getting freed from this OXIAA, that is the inhibitor, then there occurs the formation of a homodimer of ARF, that is auxin response gene. The auxin comes and binds here, and finally there occurs the activation or the initiation of the OXIAA and other genes, and finally there occurs the auxin mediated growth in the plants, that is about which we have just discussed the main function that the auxin plays. So all you need to remember is the first point that there is the inhibitor, which is OXIAA. Then we have to remember that there occurs 26 as proteasomal ubiquitination pathway for the degradation of the inhibitor, and finally there occurs a formation of homodimer, that is ARF, which is auxin response gene homodimer formation, and then there occurs the activation and the auxin mediated growth at last. So with this we are done with the complete auxin plant hormone. It is one of the most important topic for the CSIR, and also many questions have been asked previously. So I hope this video and all the topics that I have discussed is clear to you. So if you like this video, please do like, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be coming up very soon with the next video as well. So thank you so much for watching, and